Hi, it's Grant Morris. Before the show starts today, I just wanted to tell you about the NOLA Chef's Aid for the Philippines. Remember after Hurricane Katrina here in New Orleans when we sort of dropped off the news and off the front page and nobody cared about us? Well, it's good to remember that the disaster that struck the Philippines is still going on. Nina Camacho, along with Chef Leah Chase, Mayor Mitch Landrew, Ralph Brennan from the Brennan Restaurant Group, GW Finn's executive chef, Tenny Flynn, Brightson's executive chef Frank Brightson, and over 40 other chefs from around the state are going to be participating in a fundraiser at the Hilton Riverside at the New Orleans Hotel Grand Ballroom on Monday, December 16th. Between 5:30 and 6:30, you can go meet the chefs, and then the whole event takes place after that. If you'd like to go, you can get a ticket for $100. You can get a ticket for $50 or $75 or even $35 if you'd like to be a volunteer. It's called NOLA Chef's Aid, and you can get information about it at nolachefsaid.com.
Welcome to Midnight Menu Plus One. I'm Ray Canada.
And I'm Margo Moss.
We are live at Thrive, which is the original Laurel Street Bakery on Octavia and Laurel Street. But at night it becomes Thrive Pop-Up. Margo and I meet here each Monday night to discuss food and culture, New Orleans food and culture, with a member of our local restaurant and food community. We asked them to bring along a plus one. Our special guest will be here in just a moment, and he'll be bringing along a plus one. But before we do that, we have an opportunity to meet with Peter Menge, the genius behind Thrive. So welcome, Peter.
Thanks.
Glad to have you here. Thanks for hosting.
You're welcome.
Can you tell us a little bit about Thrive?
I can, yeah. But you know what genius means, right? That's not what I...
Well, I was just told that. I've never met you, actually. So I was...
the Thrive is food to go, and we say it's healthier. So that's with an IER. So it's not health food, but just food that's a little bit better. We try to use whole ingredients, seasonal, local, fresh ingredients when we can, and it's all takeaway. So this isn't a restaurant. You come here, you buy the food, and you take it either home or to work or wherever you're going to eat it.
So there's seating here, but you don't want people to use it.
Right.
Okay.
This is also the Laurel Street Bakery, and so during the day people come and they get baked goods and they get coffee and they hang out. And I actually have had people come here and get food from me and then heat it up in the microwave. So you I won't kick you out, but it's really meant to be eaten somewhere else to go.
Now, how often is Thrive here?
We are here Monday through Friday, and I stay till about 7:30 at night. And Monday is kind of like a day where it's a new menu, we're catching up. But during the week, other than on Monday, we stock the deli case with fresh food. So you could come here at any time. The bakery's open and get food. Whatever's here is fresh. It's good. If it's no longer fresh, I take it home and eat it myself. And then when I stay late, I sell the bakery's items for them, and then when they're here early in the morning, they sell mine.
See, that is genius.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah.
Do not belittle yourself. That's genius, because otherwise the bakery goods would sit here. They close at 2.
Right.
And they would have to try to sell them again the next day. And of course, baked goods aren't as great when they're not as fresh and all that. So that's great.
Yeah, and it works out really well. People can come in, get dinner for the whole family. Get some treats.
So
for the
you're here
kids.
from 2 to 7?
2:30 to 7:30.
2:30 to 7:30. Okay.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, Ray, I have had many meals from Thrive, and I've ordered ahead. You can get a menu sent to you every week if you sign up on their I don't know, what is it called? Website?
Listserv. Just sign up for the email.
Sign up for the email, and I can figure out and especially on Monday nights before I would come to the show, I don't have time to cook Julian dinner. So I would order ahead and pick up, and it's fabulous food. And I don't feel one bit guilty that I'm not cooking home-cooked food, because he has loved everything. And I've also come when I'm unorganized and on a whim and picked up things, and it's always delicious.
And you introduced me to one of my best customers, your cousin Jean, who comes all the time.
Well, we're going to need to move on, but before we do, can you tell us a few of the things that you offer? What are some of the food items that you have available?
We usually do entrees and salads, and this week tonight y'all are going to try something we're going to put on the menu this week. It's a Swiss steak, and we made using Eye of Round from Cleaver and Company. And we also have a pork tenderloin on the menu. We have a pan-seared redfish. We have a spaghetti squash, chicken sausage, and kale dish. That's hard to say, by the way. Baby spinach salad. We made a smoked salmon dip this week. So it's just, we usually do entrees, maybe a sandwich, salads, and usually some kind of snack, a hummus or something like that.
Wow, that sounds awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure.
We're looking forward to a long relationship with you here, and this is very exciting. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks.
Okay, Margo, looks like our special guest is here. I'm very excited. You know how crazy we are for locally sourced food here, and borderline fanatical, I would say. And so it's super exciting for us to have with us Seth Hamstead, who is the owner of Cleaver and Company, locally sourced, full-service butcher shop, specializing in fresh meat and sausages, and I'll let him tell us more about it. But welcome here.
Oh,
Seth, glad to have you here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Well, okay, so you've been in the news a little bit, I know, because of the St. Rock project.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, I think, in the city that cares at all about the city is very, very excited about what's going on over there. Tell us a little bit about your involvement with that, maybe.
Yeah, we actually put together kind of a small coalition of small business owners and a real estate developer to kind of take the what the city's renovated so far and turn it into a public market. We want to run it, as a public market with independent vendors, trying to hopefully approximate a grocery store with small businesses.
So has it been decided yet, everything that's going in there, or no?
No, not yet.
Yeah, that's
we're
what I've
still
heard.
very
Okay.
early in the process. We're
Okay.
just working, getting the lease from the city right now.
All right, well, I think we've gone ahead of ourselves a little bit to jump. I was so excited to talk to you about the St. Rock. Maybe we'll get back to that, but maybe we should back up and tell us more about what exactly you do.
Okay.
Tell us about what sets you apart from other butchers in the city.
Well, we're a full-service butcher shop, and we buy whole animals directly from the farmers. So we, I know
Farms in Alaska and Montana.
Yeah,
Where are
they're
these
all,
farms?
Yeah, all Louisiana and Mississippi.
We're all within, 100 miles, 200 miles?
Pretty
like
much
that?
250 miles is about as
Yeah.
far as we go, but we like to keep it as close as possible because we want to go out to the farms ourselves and investigate them, make sure they're doing things the way we want them to be doing it and the way they say they're doing it. I talk continually with my farmers. Actually, I was talking with 3 of them today, just on different things, getting ready for the holidays, and it's that level of interaction that we have that I think differentiates ourselves because we know exactly how these animals are raised. I have an issue with something that's going on with one of my animals. I can say, hey, I'm a little concerned about the quality of this right now. What's going on? And they can say, well, it's either the season or it's something going on, or I'm having a little trouble because of the weather change. The eggs aren't, the chickens aren't laying eggs right now. So it's like, we can inform our customers of this too, because we want to have interaction with the customers too. We want to be as transparent as possible so that they know where everything's coming from. They know how everything's been treated.
Right.
And then we also kept the shop as open as possible so that they can see everything that we're doing too.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a big difference between what you're doing and like the national chain grocery store where they have the 500-mile long chicken farm where they're all cloned and they're all eating each other, right? They're eating like chickens, they're eating chickens, and like they never move past like their head sticks out a hole until they die.
Yeah.
It's like it's none of that.
Yeah, no, ours are all pasture raised, so they're all kind of running around and freezing in the rain sometimes. But they get to actually live a good life.
So what's the biggest farmer you use? I mean, what would be like the closest to a big farmer?
Closest to a big farmer, probably. It's a good question. I would say probably my cattle farmer, and just because his animals take 2 years to mature. So you go out and look at his farm. And it's absolutely beautiful farm in New Iberia. He's got I don't know how many acres, but it's funny. I can actually spot it on Google Maps on the satellite view because he has this bright red roof. He's gonna be like, okay, no, that's it. And then see all that green pasture around that. That's all of his. But since it takes 2 years for his animals to mature, he has to have a larger inventory than most. Yeah.
And what's the smallest farmer you use? I mean,
we were using smaller farmers, but it got to the point where our weekly demands were kind of going out beyond them. Thankfully, one of our chicken farmers kind of got together 5 other farmers to kind of form this cooperative that we call Local Boy Farms, so that he can give access to these smaller farmers who can't continuously do 30 chickens a week for us, but he can pull in a couple of from them.
Oh, that's nice to for them to collaborate and.
Yeah, and we're pushing for more of this right now. And actually, I had an extensive conversation with them today about kind of building out our poultry operation so that we can get more farmers involved and carry more products too, not just chickens, but especially for turkeys. We want to have a better supply of turkeys locally because, past couple of years we've had to go to Kansas to get heritage breeds, and we think, if with a little bit of work, we can get a good supply.
And
from
do you do
around
like
here.
exotic animals then too, since you're doing the small stuff? I mean, do you have like
The most exotic
I mean, can
we-
I get nutri-meat from you or something like that? I mean,
Yeah,
what's the most exotic that you
so
do?
everything that we sell has to go through a state inspected or a federally inspected plant. So they have to be farmed animals. So like the nutria we can't get, or we can't sell with human consumption at least, I should say. The most exotic we've gotten so far was one of our farmers, our pork farmer, had a wild boar get onto his property and have its way with a couple of the ladies. And
Made a mixed breed.
yeah, so we had some half wild boar, half large black pigs that
Wow,
were just
what was that
absolutely
like?
beautiful. Oh, they were beautiful. They had this like dark red meat to them, this really interesting marbling. It was
Now,
really good
how'd you
animals.
decide how to price that? Did you price that more than regular pork?
We started out at the same price and just would see how it would go, and then people really loved it, so we just kind of kept running with it as it's the same price as our regular pork. We were
So
hoping.
it's still available?
No, we only
Oh.
had about 15, a litter of 15 that were available to us.
Okay.
So we did it for about 4 to 5
What
weeks.
happened to that boar?
Well, he's off in the forest somewhere right now,
Oh.
presumably.
Oh, so okay, I understand. So it was more like a drive-by
Yeah,
copulation.
he
I mean,
kinda-
didn't-
he got through the
didn't, He didn't
fence.
take residence in the farm.
No,
he
he
swung through one night,
Yeah.
had a party, and then left.
Exactly. Friday night he came into town, decided to have some fun, and then went
And
back.
it
on.
went to
there's
Bourbon Street
potential
and-
for,
yeah.
for some
future,
repeat. Yeah.
Or
Leave
maybe
him hanging.
maybe he really didn't enjoy it that much because he hasn't been back, huh?
Well, we'll see.
just done it
It
one
did take
time?
some time for the litters to.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe he is, and you don't know it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow. That's
yeah, and
really
then so they
interesting.
pop out and you go, that looks a little. Oh, yep, that's a boy.
Now you're a businessman, and this was your concept and everything, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
started this. Okay. So how long ago, by the way?
We've been open just over a year now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you a butcher yourself too?
Well, so I did some training in Chicago when I
Okay.
lived there to learn the craft, and
That's like the best place when
Wait.
I think of
Yeah,
butchers.
yeah.
I think of Chicago. Although I think of it the wrong reason. I think of like
You think of, like-
Sinclair and the
Yeah.
jungle and body parts falling in the mix and all that
there's
stuff.
still
but-
a place in Chicago called Bubbly Creek that is still bubbling from all of the questionable carcasses that got thrown in there, including some politicians. But
yeah.
But yeah, I learned the craft in Chicago just so I could at least know enough to craft the business around it, and if need be. Pick
So
up
you had
the
a
knife
vision
myself.
for this, and you said, "I really like meat. I want to cut meat up."
Yeah.
Were you like?
When it was-
yeah,
it was-
how did you because you had no history in meat, right? I mean, this
No,
was
yeah, not really.
What,
I
what
actually
is your
had some.
background?
I
What
actually had
was
some
your-
distant relatives that were cattle farmers in West Virginia.
Oh,
But
okay.
beyond that, I didn't really. I used to be a chemist, which is why what got me curious in dry curing back in the
So
day.
you were like in a PhD program at University of Chicago, right?
Yeah, I was at University of Chicago.
Now, but then you went and
Yeah.
became an economist.
Yes.
So were you studying a PhD in? Were you pursuing a PhD in chemistry at Chicago, or
Yeah,
was
I
it?
was, I was doing a PhD in chemistry
Oh.
in Chicago.
All right,
In a
so there
couple
goes all my
years-
Milton Friedman questions for you, or whatever. Yeah,
Well,
okay.
yeah, Uncle Milty, as he was known around the
he was
office.
still he's still the patron saint of economists at the.
Yeah, and there's still
Yeah.
an altar to his. Yeah,
Okay, but you weren't doing any of that.
yeah, I wasn't. Yeah,
I have
a
no
couple
idea
years.
I have no idea who the Godfather of chemistry is at the University of Chicago.
Yeah, well, the Manhattan Project, basically. But
Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah. Enrico Fermi is basically the godfather of chemistry there.
Wow.
Or that depends on who you ask.
Would have been you if you'd stayed longer.
Yeah.
So why, if you were at PhD level,
Yeah.
would you?
I-
What
Yeah.
possessed you to switch?
To switch, I was I wanted to go more into industry, and University of Chicago is a very academic-leaning institution, so I was getting pushed more in academia, and I just didn't really want to deal with the politics of it, so I decided, time for me to do something different.
So you done with the coursework already, or what
I
were
was,
you up
yeah,
to?
I was completely done with coursework.
So you were ABD at that point,
Exactly.
and then you
Yeah.
quit.
Yeah, and then I walked away.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how long ago was that? When
That
year
would
was
have been about 2000.
2000. Okay, so then in the
Yeah,
last
end of
13
2000.
years, then you've been preparing for the destiny that
Well,
awaited you.
yeah, then I worked
Okay.
8.5 years in an economic consulting firm.
Wow.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So
What- what
we
is
did
that?
basically antitrust and securities fraud expert witness testimony. Yeah.
Wait, for the trust or against the trust?
Well, it depends on who's paying more.
Of course.
Yeah. We we only had 3 Nobel Prize winners on staff. Yeah.
So you knew you wanted to get into this locally raised butcher business?
Yeah, so I was, when I was working as an economist, I was like, look, and I was kind of a markets guy. So I was a guy figuring out in the antitrust kind of what the markets were and the penetration of markets and market power. So, and I was going to the farmers markets on the weekends, and they're always really early on a Saturday. If you don't get there early enough, things run out, and all the meat had to be pre-cut, frozen, and it's like there has to be a better way for this, especially for the farmer, because they spend all of their useful time being in production. That's what their specialty is, growing good things, and then they're taking a day out to go to this farmers market and sell things. Well, what if we could be that conduit for it? What if we could be that venue in Chicago or in New Orleans to where we can sell their stuff 6-7 days a week, and they can do what they do best, which is grow meat. So that's why then I was studied to be a butcher, to be, so I can learn the craft and really figure out the economics of it.
Have you ever cut up an animal, like a raw animal, 5 years ago, 8 years ago?
Yeah, it's 5-6 years ago now. I was joking with my guys. It's probably been it's probably been 2 or 3 years now since I've last done. And thankfully we found some very talented guys here, so I don't have to do it.
All right.
I can run the business and manage every other aspect of it for them and let them do what they do well too.
Well, I think we need to pause from the butcher conversation for just a second because I see your plus ones here, and I think it's time for you to introduce him to us. Okay. We do not know who he is, but he looks very interesting. Can you introduce us?
Yeah, sure. It's Graison Gill of Bellgarde Bakery. He's kind of the very talented and rogue baker of New Orleans.
You say and rogue baker?
And rogue baker, yeah. He actually came to us a while back and was like, I've got this crazy idea of using your cracklings in a bread. And I was like, I really thought that we had put crackling in just about everything we could, and you want to put it in a bread. Like, this is fascinating. So.
All right. And that's how you got to know each other.
Yes.
And now you're friends.
Yeah.
Business
It
partners.
must have been successful if y'all move forward in your friendship.
We make that bread. I call it the Cajun fougasse. Fougasse is a southern French bread from Provence. It's a traditional bread that's made with olive oil and typically anything from like lardon to anchovies. And a whole mission of my bakery is to reflect and kind of channel the wide, deep history of New Orleans baking's traditions and all the things that go on here. So I had an idea of trying to incorporate something that Seth made into the bread, and we sell the bread at Seth's shop every Saturday, and we also make a different version of that bread for St. Marie Brasserie and for Broussard's.
All right.
Well, so, yeah.
All right.
Exciting.
Cool. Well, I know Broussard's has just put a bunch of money into making things better
renovation,
there and kind of revitalizing that.
Yeah.
A renewed mission there, which is great. So you're involved with them, and you supply the bread for them. So all the bread they use is from you, or some of the bread they use is from you?
As far as the table bread, we do all the table
that's all
bread
you
for them. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's got to be a lot.
They go through quite a bit, especially for the holiday season. Yeah.
I mean, you have any idea of the volume? You must, right?
I do probably a few hundred pieces a week for them.
A few hundred pieces a week.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
what is what is the strangest bread that you've produced besides the? I hate to say strange, but what is
Most exotic.
most exotic, or most culturally relevant that we wouldn't know about but unusual?
I would say we do St. James Cheese as a cheese class just about every Wednesday. Different regional classes with wine. They do pairings. So I think it was about 3 weeks ago they did a class on sake. So that was a bit of a challenge to come up with a bread that would pair not only with the sake but also with the cheeses that Casey had chosen for the class. So I took some Cajun grain rice. That's a brown jasmine rice grown in Kinder, Louisiana. And I paired that with, they make a Cajun grain rice flour and a Cajun grain grits. So I cooked those grits down, and then I also added some of the rice flour and some Louisiana molasses to a loaf of whole wheat bread, and had a really delicate kind of crumbly mouth texture and mouth feel. And then the rice flour gave it that kind of crispiness too. So that was a bit of a, I guess, like an intellectual challenge in the sense of trying to line up with something that somebody wants that they're not necessarily able to articulate as far as bread goes.
Very creative and probably an evolution and trial and error, right?
Yeah, but also grounded, I think, too, because it's not some like far out, like, reduced pineapple and Haitian rum or something. It's very like with the crackling bread, the fougasse. it's some cayenne pepper and herbs de Provence, and it's a pureed, crackling. So it's not, bread. When we add stuff to bread at the bakery, it's not about eating like blue cheese. Like you want to like the bread because of the fermentation, the quality of the bake, the flour, the water, all the other ingredients. You don't want to, if you're going to eat crackling, go and buy some crackling from Seth. If you want a well-balanced, loaf of bread or a different flavor that's complemented by crackling or whatever it may be, that's great. But the quality and strength and the dexterity of the baker should be present in the bread, not in the additions to the bread.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, something that always impressed me about what Graison does is it's always rooted in traditional styles of bread and everything, and it's just like this modern riff on it that is just always goes in a great direction.
Now, how'd you get involved in bread making?
I started baking in the Bywater about 5 or 6 years ago at a commercial kitchen, and just kind of snowballed. Yeah.
Okay, so what were you doing before that?
I was in college for a few years, and had
So
left and came down here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now, how'd you get down here?
on a Greyhound bus from Port Authority.
From Port Authority. Okay,
Yeah,
so you're in New York originally?
I was up there for a few years, and my best friend's family's from Chalmette, and he was
Okay.
down here, and I was in New Hampshire, and must have been February, and I was shoveling some snow off of a roof, and he called and said it was like 85 degrees down here in February, and there was another like northeastern coming in up there, and I was just said,
Had you visited him before?
I hadn't been down here yet.
Okay, so you're familiar with the
Yeah. I
the
was.
city and the culture.
Not as much, but yeah, I definitely was.
And do you have an interest in history? I mean, do you have any
Yeah.
background in history?
Just kind of freelance amateur. I like to read a lot. That's all that I do. I'm reading the Richard Campanella book right now, the Bienville's Dilemma.
Oh, I love
That's
that
a great book.
That is a fantastic book.
I did a lot of research for the bakery. There was a guy in the 50s that was a bit of a historian for the baking industry and culture down in New Orleans, and his papers are Tulane at the Tilton Memorial Library. So I read his papers, and I don't know, John Folse's encyclopedia of Cajun and Creole cooking.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Interesting.
So
So do you think you're going to be doing bread 50 years from now, or what?
if my body keeps up with it, yeah, it's really physical. I
So
think.
now is this something you can do from home, or do you have space for this?
No,
or-
I have a 2,500 square foot production facility.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow. It's just you?
There's about 4 or 5 of us.
4 or 5 of you,
drivers, including drivers and all
Okay.
that stuff. But yeah, we do on average, and the slowest day is about 300 loaves of bread a day by hand.
That's your slow day.
Yeah.
Wow, each one done by hand.
And do
Now,
you have to do that all night? I mean, is it like you wake up at 3 in the morning
we
or
do
you work all night?
we do
or
a
what's
style of baking called retarded fermentation, where the fermentation is slowed down, so it's a slow rise, and it rises overnight in the walk-in cooler. So every loaf of bread that we make gets at least 24 hours of fermentation. So the bread for tomorrow we finished mixing today, like 10:45 this morning. So it's in the walk-in until we arrive in the morning to cut it and divide it and bake it off.
Now, what's the advantage of that, the slower fermentation? What is
Better
it?
flavor, but
Yeah.
also just ease of production. Some I won't name names, but a lot of bakeries all over the country, and also in France and wherever else. It's straight kind of mix, and there's no. I mean, bread is fermentation, and if you're gonna cheat the main step, it's like, I don't know. It's like using a hairdryer just to get the job done. So
Can you taste the difference, you think?
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. It's about maximizing minimum ingredients. So I work with flour, water, and salt, and
Okay.
time.
Okay.
And that's a really conscientious effort, especially down here with the weather and the climate. It's a real gamble as far as kind of teasing that in and getting it down where you
Right.
have it right. So
Yeah, do you have to control the environment more than another creative cooking process? I mean,
Yeah.
I know nothing, but I've wondered the water. Do you have to treat the water? Is it soft water or hard water different for your process?
I have a
or-
water softener because with bread you don't want a particularly hard water, and you don't want to get like a reverse osmosis filter because you need minerals, to act as a catalyst for the fermentation. So you don't want a kind of a vacuous, great tasting water, and then again you don't want some public water that's full of garbage and it's really hard. So
Well, I know I know all this stuff is debatable because we had the Revista people, the Revista
Yeah,
folks.
uh-huh.
They're wonderful.
Lisa
we had
and
them on
Chris.
the show, yes, and they actually took opposite views on the on the role of humidity in their baking, and one was completely convinced it had one effect, and the other was completely
But one
convinced
is a
it had the
baker.
opposite.
But one is a baker.
Yeah, but
by-
the other one was like the sous chef at Commanders too. So I mean, it's like they're both pretty qualified.
Oh, they're both qualified.
and they
but
both
I mean,
own a bakery.
Yeah, but I would imagine if you're baking bread, it's more of a scientific and.
I guess what I'm just trying to say is there's got to be some art to it too. It's not all. It's not all just straight science. It's not like we can just look it up and say, okay, this is for sure the effect on this. You're discovering effects as you're doing it, probably.
Right, and I think
Right.
it's a matter of being dexterous with knowing all the different elements that go into it and controlling those too. So yeah, it may not be because there's a rainstorm or because it's particularly humid. I mean, that's a matter of knowing how to control those things and approach those things. But that may not have a direct, result on the finished product so much as what the baker put into it. Yeah.
Now you're going to also be involved in the St. Rock project then as well,
Yes.
right? Or you're hoping to the corporation that you all formed.
It's a
You're part of that.
nonprofit.
It's a
Yeah, we
nonprofit.
want to do a nonprofit, so
Right.
that way we don't think the market itself should make money. This is a public building; it's a public good.
Okay.
We don't want the organization that is running the market to necessarily make money. We want that all that money that comes into the market to be reinvested into the market.
Okay, but
and
the-
therefore keeping the rents low for the vendors to make
But
money.
the vendors will make money.
Oh, yeah,
right,
the
yeah,
vendors-
yeah.
the-
Of course,
hopefully
you're
the
not doing
vendors will
this
make
on
money.
charity, yeah, right.
No.
But the sort of the parent group that's sort of working with the vendors, that's
Yeah.
going to be a nonprofit, and you're the you and the other people that you named are over the
Yeah, we're part of the initial board.
Okay.
And then we'll also have some community representatives on the board once we actually get formed and running forward. But
Okay.
we think that the market really needs to have a strong vendor presence on the board and the
Right.
management to make sure that we have a sustainable market.
Yeah, if it's just, I would imagine, if it's just a board of people that aren't really affiliated with the community or the businesses that are going there, then it's harder to have a balanced opinion and influence.
Yes,
So-
exactly. And that's why we think we want to have vendor representation and community representation on the board, so that we all can have the resources and the knowledge to bring to the board and hopefully make it a very successful market.
So now, is there a possibility that the city's going to go a different direction with this?
There is a possibility.
Who decides?
So there's a
So I filled out a survey for St. Rock,
Yeah.
right? Now, I don't know who put it out there, but it was
Actually, I
it was a
think-
long survey. My friend Ben McLeish was the one who pointed me towards it.
I
and
think was he the one that posted it possibly?
he posted it, right?
Yeah.
And it got several hundred answers and asked you what neighborhood you're in and would you like this and would you like that and what are your current habits and so forth. And it was a pretty
Yeah.
extensive thing. It seemed to be fairly sophisticated. And then they
Yeah.
printed the results. But I mean, he's not deciding. Who is he or who's
No,
deciding?
I mean ultimately it comes to there's a quasi-governmental corporation called the New Orleans Building Corporation that technically owns the building.
Okay.
And it's basically an entity owned by the city of New Orleans that owns the buildings. And they're the ones that decide, their board decides who gets the lease.
Okay.
Now, we're working through, the New Orleans Building Corporation has retained a real estate agent to market the building, to
Oh,
find
gotcha.
bids, to attract people to run the market. And, we've put our hat in the ring. We actually have a community meeting coming up.
So somebody horrible like
yeah.
Winn-Dixie or something comes by and wants
Yeah, I'm
mean,
sure
can
they
that-
can
can
submit
that
a
happen?
proposal also. Yeah, I mean, anything can
theoretically
happen.
that could happen,
Yeah.
right?
Now, I would say that, what the city's done with the renovations already, doesn't really lend itself to a grocer going in there.
Okay.
One like a Rouse's or a Winn-Dixie. And the footprint of it's probably smaller than any Rouse's or Winn-Dixie you ever go to.
Now, I had a question for you. I heard a rumor that you have butcher classes.
Yes.
I paint once in a while. I'm not a real artist like Margo, but I can
Yeah.
go ahead and take like the paint by numbers class that they have at the what's the name of the place that they have? We have another artist here that's
Yeah.
smirking at me right now, Chris. But I tell you, and I painted a couple things I stuck on my wall. As somebody who's never butchered at all, I've never
Yeah.
hunted before. I've never cleaned a fish. I've never
Yeah.
fished before in my life. I can go. You have a beginner's class I can go to, and I can learn to.
Yeah,
do
so
something?
I wouldn't recommend putting any of it on your wall. But yeah, we have some butchering demos so you can see how to break down a hog.
How many times have you done this?
We do about every month or two. We'll have.
So you've
one.
had hundreds of people in this town that have come by and.
Yeah, we do.
Have you suspected any to be like serial killers or anything? Have you ever worried
only
about,
a couple.
You know how like flight school every once in a while, like after 9/11, they went, wait a second, that guy,
He didn't ask how to land. Yeah.
He just didn't know how to. He only wanted to take off. He didn't want to learn how to land.
Yeah.
And he was asking about cargo, fertilizer and stuff. Like, do you ever have anybody you go like, I don't know, I should call the police. This guy doesn't.
Yeah,
seem
every
like
once
he
in a while you
wants
can
to-"
start to wonder, when they start really asking questions about how it was killed, and specifically what size clamp did you use for that? You
puts
start
the
to
lotion
wonder.
on.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a great date, though.
Well, it was funny.
I really do.
It's a genius idea.
Yeah, last year, so we also do a sausage making class. And last year we did, it was earlier this year, we did one right after Valentine's Day. And we realized it was all couples doing the sausage making class. And we're just
I
like,
wonder what that means.
I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah.
I'm not a psychiatrist, but wow! So you do a sausage making class too?
You could
Yeah.
really learn a lot about a person. I mean, look, I'm speaking. If a guy asked me to go on a date and to do that, I think it would be so creative, and I would love that.
I think
I don't
most
know, I
of it
think
was
it's a
the
skill,
was the
and
woman
it's-
was buying it for the couple.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a Valentine's Day gift that both of us can do.
I mean, I like that. You can learn a lot about a person by like how they. Oh, now we're going to go into all
Yeah,
that.
if
I
they're-
know. It's
no,
like,
no,
can
no,
we
but if
make
they're
some off-color jokes?
But seriously, if they're squeamish or I don't know, I think it's really neat to learn where your food comes from, and not just go out and eat all the time or
It's
cook
been-
at home to just really see
Now,
what
you
goes
think anybody
into
became
it.
like a vegetarian after the class too? I mean, like, did
I
anybody
don't
swear
know.
off meat?
I think if you bought the ticket to get in, you probably know what you're about to get into.
No, I don't.
But,
I disagree because like I've seen meat behind a counter,
Yeah.
but I think like handling it and like guts. I mean, it could ruin meat to me.
Yeah.
I'd be kind of afraid of it. To be
It's
honest,
been
'cause I
interesting
like
to
meat
see,
a lot.
all
Oh,
the
it
people
turned me
coming in
on.
because especially, when we get on Fridays usually or the days that we get all the animals in, and then, when people see like this parade of animals coming in, being carried in, and they're dead already. But, with the head still on it and everything, it can really get to them. But, that was more like right when we first opened, and I think now people are just a little bit more used to it. Whenever you get the small hogs in, that's usually when people really start to get a little green about it because sometimes they're about this. One woman's like, "That's the size of my dog," and it was just.
You ever see a Portlandia skit where like they're at a restaurant and they're ordering the free range chicken and and then they're like, "Can I meet the chicken?" And so then they have to go to the farm first before they can order it, and then they have a relationship with the chicken, and then they, the whole thing. So like, you ever have anybody like get really bizarre on you like that while you were?
Oh,
Wanna
I
pet
have
the
the photos
animals
for them, but one of our farmers, she always sends us pictures of the cattle. And we were getting some veal from her, and she would send us pictures of it, still nursing on its mother, and to say we should put this on Facebook. And I love having these photos because it's like, I want to see what this animal looked like, and I want to see how it was raised, and some of our customers do too. And people ask about it, and I'm like, here, it's on my phone. Like, I'll show it to you. But I was like, I don't think I'm going to put that on Facebook. Like that, I don't think some people are going to
that'll help business.
Yeah, see it sold nursing its mother, and they feel like, I really want to eat that. Yeah.
Wow.
So how many people would you say after the class change their style of eating? I mean, have you had people come in and say, I eat meat so much more now that I've shopped with you or I've learned with...
A little bit differently, actually. We kind of advocate people eating less meat but better meat. And people have, especially after the butchering demos, when we kind of go through all the different uses for the different parts, and we also kind of communicate, this is the proper portion size. Like, people will come in looking for like pounds of meat for like one person for one meal, and it's like, that's just not, how much you should be eating. This is a proper portion size, and, try this, come back if you want more. And, people have said, I really get it now. Like, it's much more filling. It's much more satisfying, I should say.
Right.
When you're eating like a full fat, properly raised animal, because your body eats that fat and goes, you know what? I'm full. I'm satisfied. Whereas if you're eating boneless skinless chicken breasts, your body just keeps going, okay, more protein, because it needs fat. And once
it's not a balanced meal as much.
It's not
as
a balanced
saying,
meal
right?
at all. Yeah. So it's like, if you eat the animal the way it was supposed to be raised and how it's supposed to be treated, it's a much more satisfying experience, and you don't need nearly as much meat to go with it. People will come in, we cut the pork chops, they saw the big fat cap on them, and they go, what do I do with that? And you're like, well, you cook it and then you eat it. If you don't want all that fat, just put it aside and use it when next time you're making red beans, throw it in there, and it's going to be the best red beans you ever made.
Well, I would imagine too, it's maybe similar in bread, the bread you're making and the meat you're selling. People don't really know what food tastes like until, I would imagine if you've never had farm fresh food or maybe bread with a certain flavor and then you're exposed to it, you crave that, or you want more of that because it tastes good. And we had Chef Saris from the culinary program at Tulane. What is it?
I'm drawing a blank. It's my
culinary medicine program at
Yeah,
Tulane.
the
First.
where they're teaching the doctors how to cook, so they can go out to the
Yes.
community and teach them how to cook. And
And
we're actually hoping that we can partner with them for the St. Roch market, so that they can use it as a venue to teach classes at.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
because we think it's really
frankly,
important.
it's a neighborhood for a long time that didn't have a lot of good, healthy food options too. That's one of the few places in the city that has a lot of fast food around there too.
Yeah,
a lot of junk.
There's a Rally's next door to it.
Yeah, right. And it's like, boy, but yet it's a community that has so much funk to it, and just so much interest in life and creativity
and history.
and
that
history.
They used to have access to fresh food, and so this would bring that back to the community.
Yeah, we're hoping to bring it back.
So exciting. Well, I mean, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, there's got to be something very fulfilling about when you're locally sourced like this, knowing that this is helpful not only to to me, but it's helpful to the people that supply me. You already talked about that. You said how it's a better lifestyle for them than having to travel and do the stuff they don't really like to do or isn't really what they're called to do in the farmers markets. But then it's also better for the community, the customers too. I mean, it's healthier for them. You've alluded to that. I mean, everybody wins basically, except for some corporation in wherever that's losing out on this. Except for Tyson or whatever. But
it's like no offense, but I don't feel bad for Sanderson Farms.
Yeah, right. I mean, who loses in this? No one, right? I mean, what's the drawback to this? I mean, and how about cost too? Now, price is price a big concern? Is it?
Price is a big concern. Since there's no shortcuts taken.
Right.
It does cost more. And we have people coming in asking like, oh, how many filler? What all do you put in your sausages for filler? And it's like, we don't put anything in it. It's all just straight meat, seasoning, salt. That's it.
I mean, my answer to that when people say that sometimes, though, I don't know if you agree with this, but I always say what you allude to before, you don't need to eat as much of the good stuff as you do of crappy stuff. That's one thing. The other thing is there's a hidden cost. You eat the crappy stuff, and 10 years later you got cancer or whatever. You got to go back,
or diabetes,
or whatever. And you pay for it now or you pay for it later. And I'd rather pay for it now and pay for it in a healthy way than.
Well, and that's why I think Tulane's trying to re-educate people how to cook, because like so many people don't know how to cook anymore. So it's they go to the grocery store and just get all the prepared stuff, and who knows what's in all that stuff.
Yeah, right.
And then we're finding out now it's like margarine was healthy for you. No, that wasn't true. Now we're finding out that natural lard, the beef that we sell at the shop is all grass-fed and finished. It's higher in omega-3s and lower in omega-6s.
Right.
Omega-3s are what you're supposed to eat fish for. It's higher in CLAs, which are good for brain development. All these health benefits that we've lost because we went to this industrial agriculture thing that it's really hurting us.
For example, I always know when I buy organic fruit at the chain grocery store that sells organic stuff, it doesn't have a third the juice as much as like my lemon tree in my backyard, and I think it's better to have a fresh lemon from from close by, from a Louisiana farmer, Satsuma that was picked a day or two ago or whatever. That's far healthier, I gotta believe, because it's way juicier than having an organic one that's shipped from Taiwan.
Yeah, because they didn't have to pick it when it was unripe, and then, so it can ship over, and then then put it in a chamber with what do they use for
ethanol?
It's ethylene. It's ethylene gas that they use to ripen.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah,
that sounds really healthy.
Yeah. Well, this is more on that. But I was Chef Saris was saying she exposed community people in the community to a traditional dish that everybody eats in New Orleans, but she made it like 7 different ways, and they never picked the food that was bought with the stuff with preservatives in it, and even though that was exactly the way they were making it, people just don't realize, and you don't have to have a sophisticated palate or be have tons of money to be able to appreciate fresh, healthier food, So to me, that's what's exciting, and you'll be bringing that to a community. Maybe some of the products will be higher end, but people will have access to
to what we hopefully we also want to make sure that it's as affordable as possible too, but we want to give people the option of giving access to fresh food, and then also we want to work and do classes to make sure that they know what to do with it, and how to plan and meal properly.
And that's going to be part of the St. Rock.
Yeah, that's part of our community outreach program.
I just gave 15 of my lemons to Chef Sarah. She's making some lemon marmalade for her mom or somebody in Rhode Island. Yeah, I left them on my porch this week. And I brought you some eggs, by the way, if you want some eggs, either one of you. And, we got more eggs than we can use.
Good. Yeah, we've been. Our
I'll
egg
take
farmer has
them.
been
I'll take
faltering.
them. Can I have
Yeah,
them?
you can have them. You can have them.
Yeah.
He doesn't trust them.
No.
After all that talk
but
about
these
serial
guys
killing.
get no.
Oh, that's right. You don't need them. You got enough eggs, right?
They
Yeah, no, those are for my backyard.
Excellent. So we have to interrupt this interesting conversation to go to the book of questions.
All right.
Yeah, from the
Because our
sublime to the
producer
banal.
So I would like you to pick a number between 1 and 217, please.
All right,
Seth.
let's go 216.
16. I think that's new. DOS.
Always trying to break new
Okay.
ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pioneer.
If a crystal ball
Oh, boy.
would tell you the truth about any one thing you wish to know concerning yourself, life, the future, or anything else, what would you want to know?
That's a good one.
Finally, someone said that's a good one. Yes!
He's lying.
Yeah, it's just filler. I think Graison
Nothing
might
but
agree with
chemistry?
this. Well, we've already figured all that out, except when we don't. And then we go, oh, no, that was wrong. I think Graison might agree with me on this. And it's like, I feel like, as a culture, we've gone away from agriculture, and now we're kind of coming back to it. And I just want to, I would like to know in the future if this is actually, this movement has legs to it, and if we're on the right ship. I know we're on the right ship. I just want to know if, this is something bigger that's coming up, that it's going to be, I think it's worthwhile. And definitely I think it's worthwhile because we're doing it. But, I just want to make sure that it's what happens.
Oh, that's interesting.
Nice. Okay, Graison. Sorry to do it to you.
What were the numbers?
Between 1 and 217.
I'll take 217.
All right.
Okay. Good thing I was right with the number. Okay.
Yeah.
If you were guaranteed honest responses to any 3 questions, who would you question and what would you ask?
Oh, that's so hard.
Is that okay?
How about just any
1.
3? Yeah, right.
One,
Yeah.
If
Oh, yeah.
you could have 1 honest response, who would that? And it can be personal. It doesn't have to be, about your
Wait, is this a living or a dead person or anybody in history?
anybody history.
Who killed Laura Palmer? No.
Oh wait. Yep.
I suppose maybe going on the theme of the evening with food is this kind of recent trend going back to Seth's question about people's kind of aversion to wheat or this gluten allergy and all these problems that people have. And I think tying back into Seth's question, I just think the irony of calling organic farming organic and conventional farming conventional. I mean, 80 years ago, organic farming was conventional, and that's how our grandparents were raised, whether it was in Des Moines or whether it was in Dresden or Beijing. There wasn't petroleum and all these other chemicals put on food, and bread wasn't thrown in the mixer and really beat up. So I question people, I guess, in general, as far as making these assumptions that aren't really predicated maybe on anything that they've tried, wholeheartedly. And going back to the portion control of, at the butcher shop and things like that, I think people slowing down to take patience with something that is a little bit different. Or sometimes I run into a few brick walls about doing bread that's not, po' boy bread or French bread, whatever labels they have. I mean, that would never be recognized in France. And 80 years ago, nobody ate po' boy bread down here. It wasn't here. That wasn't what people ate. So, getting to the root of people's taste and going back to what you said too about the chef at Tulane, I think really it's about flavor, and it's about how you eat, not really what you eat. The company, where it was grown. I think that whole kind of just that brick road, just the trail of it and where it's coming from. So
Okay. Thank you.
Now, you brought up gluten. Are you of the opinion that some people are jumping to an allergy diagnosis before they've experimented enough to determine if that's really the problem, or
somebody that's been diagnosed with celiac disease? That's very serious, and that's a deathly condition. And I'm sure if they walked by that open door that we're sitting next to in this bakery, they could possibly get sick. Or it's ppm, like the amount of gluten that it would take or wheat to get somebody sick. But I think the problem, going back once again to this question, is just the way that the food is treated. And not only the way that it's grown, but the way that it's processed and baked and whatever it is. So I think a lot of people have an aversion to the way, because next to cotton,
you're saying it not for everybody. It's not a gluten allergy. Not everybody that's staying away from gluten.
It's an agriculture allergy. It's an allergy to industrial agriculture.
And
the way that we eat.
But you could eat the same ingredient grown naturally and processed naturally instead of.
I think it's more the processing, because wheat, cotton, and tobacco are the most manicured and manipulated crops in human history. So when you add all this yeast to it and you don't ferment it and you don't bring out the full flavor of it, and people are just digesting this white brick. So I think naturally fermented breads with quality gluten and quality ingredients really makes it a lot more digestible for people that otherwise would have an aversion to bunny bread or something else like that doesn't really have any fermentation, because it's just kind of the solid product that you're consuming, as opposed to something that gets 24 hours of fermentation or a little bit more patience as far as the way that it's being made.
We've had people come into the shop that I sell Graison's bread on Friday through Sunday, and they comment that I thought I had a wheat or a gluten allergy, and then I can eat this bread, and it's like, probably wasn't the wheat or the gluten, it was probably all the other crap.
It was the other crap, right? Yep.
Half of our breads have no gluten or no wheat in them at all, or no yeast in them at all. And then, we did for tomorrow, I think we mixed about a 400-pound batch of baguette dough, and that has maybe about 4 tablespoons of yeast in it. Wow. And that's 400 pounds of dough, so it's really minimal.
Doesn't need much.
We put a lot of natural fermentation and starters in there as well, and the amount of time that it ferments really reduces the amount of leavening that you need.
They take.
Not shortcuts, but production. I mean, it's a conscientious choice. I wouldn't do it any other way.
I'm saying that others do it. I'm saying they're taking
I wouldn't even say it's a shortcut. You're decimating the whole craft. I mean, that's the nature of our life.
It's not even food. When all those things are added, it's not. It's not edible to me.
Right.
I'll tell you what's food. That's food. That looks like food to me.
I didn't think I was on out to lunch.
So chef, will you please introduce yourself and tell us what you brought out?
Well, the food first, more important. That is Swiss steak. It's kind of my variation of Swiss steak. Basically, it's top eye round from a wonderful place. Sear it, slow cook it, deglaze it with some vegetables, peppers, onions, celery, tomatoes, a little bit of wine, a little bit of Worcestershire, beef stock. Break it down, make it a little tender. Also sauteed some mushrooms with some Parmesan, some balsamic vinegar reduction, and haricot verts.
Beautiful.
Wow. Very nice.
And you tortured us because you brought all this to us without any forks.
I know. Hey, I had that.
Now this is Chef Matthew Ratcliff with Thrive, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So Chef Matthew.
Yes.
In addition to working with Thrive, you also have your own business?
Yes, I do. Yes,
Tell
I
us
do.
a little bit about that. Where else can we get food like this? from you?
I'll back up a little bit. My relationship with Peter with Thrive, it's kind of a mutual beneficial thing, beneficial to both of us. We share resources, we share the kitchen, we share ingredients. Get a better price on things. I'm basically his chef, and I help him. I just help Thrive out, and also in addition, he provides resources and kind of exposes me around town for Crescent Cookery is my business.
Crescent Cookery. So this is a personal chef kind of thing, or
it's a jack of all trades. It
Okay.
primarily is a catering business, but
Catering business,
that takes a lot of forms. For instance, this past Friday night we did a Christmas party, heavy hors d'oeuvres. We also do a lot of holiday cooking. For Thanksgiving, I did a lot of turkeys and hams, spiral hams, dressings, dessert pies, things like that, delivered to your door.
All right.
Soups, things like that. Sell a lot of products here at a Laurel Street Bakery alongside Thrive.
Now, where can we find out about your business then? Do you have a web presence?
I do.
Or?
I do. In addition to Facebook, like everyone else, I also have it's crescentcookery.com.
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 And you're here operating through Thrive also most days, 2:30 to 7:30, Monday to Friday.
Well, actually, I'll tell you, the business is never really closed. Anytime you can go online and place an order with me at 1 in the morning if you want to. Anytime you there's little sample menus on our website. There's some pictures of some things we've done in the past. You can check it out there. Just pick what you want. Just send me an email. And
so I can get like 3 meals a day from you, take out, and I can look at pictures of it in between.
And hire you for an event. And
you can order 3
scratch and smell coloring books you have. Like
and you can order soup, and you can order your holiday dinner from me, and you can go ahead and plan for carnival or tailgating. We go as low end as just wings and dips and things like that. We go as high end as crown roasts and
look in
we're
this
all over the
town,
place.
especially in this town, you don't need to apologize for making good wings because it's not a wing town. It needs a lot more.
For Muses Parade or for Toth Parade, I'm sorry, I've already got an order for someone's cookout for that.
Awesome.
So yeah, and we're definitely open for carnival season.
Awesome.
So.
Well, Muses is my favorite parade. Well, thank you.
All right,
really
thank you.
appreciate
so
you, and
much.
thanks for this delicious meal
see you
as
enjoyed
well.
it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I want to return to you just a little bit. Graison, tell us some more about I'm intrigued a little bit by when you alluded to some of the history of bread making, and I don't know, do you have any other thoughts about that? Any other comments? We are running out of time. We have just a few minutes left, but I'd like to hear more about some of the discoveries you've been making historically about your craft.
Yeah, I named the bakery Bellgarde Bakery. Was the name of the first bakery here in Louisiana because
That was the first bakery in the state of Louisiana.
Well, it wasn't a state, but the capital of the French territory in this part of the country was in Mobile for about 20 years.
Okay.
And then when they founded the city here in 1722, the colony and the capital moved here, and the first bakery was named Bellgarde, and it was where the Pentable is right now at this corner of
No
St.
kidding,
Anne
yeah.
and
Right, the
Charter
oldest
Street.
apartment building in the country.
Well, it actually
That's-
predated
yeah.
the construction of the Pentable building where
but
the
I mean,
bakery
yeah.
was. So
Cool.
just the depth of baking and tradition. Also, I mean, I think it just gets neglected as far as the food culture of the city. The fact that bread and baking have kind of become symbolized by the French or po' boy loaf, and it's really just...
Who's your second favorite baker besides yourself in the city?
In this city?
Yeah.
Definitely like Revisa and Gracious Bakery a lot. Megan,
both of whom we've had on our
Megan and
show.
Lisa,
We love them both.
Doing
Yeah,
wonderful
that's great.
work. But
Cool.
I mean, even after the Civil War, there are more than 250 bakeries here in town. There was a Muslim bakery that opened on Chapatula Street after the Civil War. There was 3 dozen breweries in town after the turn of the century, and just this depth of food and tradition that has kind of been paved under a little bit to kind of approximate only what you can find in Rouse's or possibly Winn-Dixie. So hopefully a project like St. Rock will really highlight something that's not an aberration, but something that has always been here that just kind of got suffocated a little bit. But, not to toot our own horns, but people like, Richard at St. James Cheese and Seth and myself really trying to pull this back up from underwater, where it was almost completely submerged.
Well, it's really fun because, I mean, to me, all you guys are having an operation that, it's fairly small at this point, right? I mean, fairly modest. You talk about having like 4 employees, and you're doing it with just a few folks.
We have about 4 employees.
About 4, right? And but you can band together with and St. James has been an established thing that's been wonderful for a long time in the city. But again, it's a small operation. But together you can do things collectively and encourage each other in ways, projects like this that I think you couldn't do by yourself. And that's just another example, I think, of what we talk about all the time in the show Margo, about just the value of community and relationship in New Orleans, and it gives a flavor to everything that New Orleans does. And in particular, I think the food culture has that, where there's just a high degree of collegigy and so forth. That
One more
enables-
ingredient.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly. And there's less of the competitiveness, and even if there are people that are jealous or whatever, but there's always going to be other people that want to help you out and partner with you, and that's just really exciting to see. To me, that's beautiful. That's what human life's supposed to be about. So that's terrific. Well, I'm so sorry that we're out of time. That flew by, didn't it, Margo? That was
Yes.
amazing. I guess maybe one more time, can you just give us the basics of your location, your hours, and contact information one more time for our listeners? We'll start with you.
Oh, sure. Cleaver and Company is a whole locally sourced whole animal full service butcher shop. We're located at 3917 Baronne Street, kind of 2 blocks behind the Columns Hotel and by where the old Martin wine cellar was. And you can reach us online at cleavernola.com or call us at the shop at 504-227-3830.
Thank you. And Graison?
And at Bellgarde Bakery, we bake fresh bread 6 days a week, every day but Monday, and we sell at restaurants as different and varied as Petite Grocery and Broussards. And as far as retail outlets, we have a map on our website under the retail tab, along with some other historical essays and information. And our website is Bellgarde Bakery, is BELLEGARDE.wordpress.com.
Thank you. This has been a delight. Our special guests have been Seth Hamstead and Graison Gill. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Midnight Menu Plus One is produced by Grant Morris, and Chris Keogh is our technical director. And this fabulous audio quality that you hear is by PreSonus Audio Electronics. Makes all kinds of wonderful things. Visit PreSonus.com for more information. You can get in touch with us here at Midnight Menu Plus One by going to our website. It's NewOrleans.com, and from there you can follow us on Twitter, find us on Facebook, sign up for our mailing list, get all kinds of swag. And while you're at itsneworleans.com, you can listen to other episodes of Midnight Menu Plus One and our other shows, Happy Hour, Mindset, True to the Game, Vietnola, Out to Lunch, and others. And if you're listening to the show on iTunes, please rate us and review us. It helps other people to find us. Midnight Menu Plus One is a production of INO Broadcasting for itsneworleans.com. I am Ray Canada.
And I'm Margo Moss. Thanks.
You know Labor Day signals the unofficial end of summer, but not the end of your outdoor projects. Lowe's helps you do it right and helps you save with Labor Day deals throughout the store. Shop now and get 2 bags of Stay Green Potty Mix for $12. And keep your lawn looking neat and trim with a Craftsman 2-cycle 17-inch gas string trimmer, now $20 off at just $119. Whatever's still on your to-do list this Labor Day, do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. Offers valid through 8/28. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. U.S. only.